The LA Kings will be without their captain for multiple games. We react to that news. Plus, a lot of Kings fans are very concerned about the start of the season and voicing their opinions here, that, and more on this fan feedback edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. Also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly YouTube show and podcast that wraps up the night in the NHL, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Before we get into your emails, two things. We have a giveaway for you at the end of this show, so stay tuned for that. And we react to the news that Kings captain Anze Kopitar is now week to week. Obviously, this is a tough blow for the team that's already out of the gate with a 1-3-1 record. So LA will be without their top line center for multiple games. Sucks for the team and sucks for Kopi to miss games in his farewell season. So perhaps to make the best out of a bad situation, I would like to see the Kings give Alex Turcotte a shot centering one of the top two lines. I would have Byfield centering the top line and Turcotte the second line. Now, he's a 5th overall pick in 2019. A lot of people have complained that they haven't gotten their money's worth out of him. Of course, there was injury issues with him that really kind of, I wouldn't say derailed, but got his career a bit off track to start. Hopefully those things are behind him. He looks more like at least a full-time NHL player. How big of a role or small of a role he'll have in the NHL remains to be seen. But maybe this could be a blessing in disguise. Give Turcotte a shot at being one of the top two centers, and let's see how he reacts to that challenge. I get that Phillip Danault is a better defensive player. I get that he has more experience than a guy like Alex Turcotte, but I just don't think Phillip Danault is a top 6 center. Now, maybe Turcotte proves he's not either, but I'd like to see him given the chance to prove he is or he isn't. So also a bit of a surprise to me was that LA Kings insider Zach Dooley reported that the Kings had Alex Laferriere centering Kempe and Kuzmenko in practice on Friday. I would prefer Turcotte get that chance. I am, though, intrigued by how Alex Laferriere might do in that position. We'll see if he plays on that top line with Kempe and Kuzmenko, and we'll see how he does. Meanwhile, Darcy Kuemper was on the ice on Friday, but he didn't practice, so it looks like it'll be Anton Forsberg again against Carolina on Saturday. And finally, Corey Perry was on the ice. Kings are listing him as day-to-day, so there's a lot of moving pieces going on right now with the LA Kings roster. They're taking on a very good Carolina Hurricanes team who's 4-0 on Saturday, so we'll see what the lineup looks like, and we'll be reacting to how the Kings do, but they're going to be without their captain for multiple games, which is unfortunate. All right, let's get to your emails. And as you might imagine, there's a lot of passionate opinions being shared about the Kings right now. Let's start with Chris in Oceanside. He says, "Hey, Eddie, continue to love the show and wish you continued success with it." Thank you, Chris. "My gripe is with Luc Robitaille and his inability to see what's really going on in front of him. Ken Holland is likely going to be a disaster for this team. Blowing out Jordan Spence, paying Cody Ceci, keeping Jim Hiller are huge mistakes so far. What's next? It was clear that Forsberg wasn't up to the task against Pittsburgh as he let in 3 soft goals, largely because of technique, yet Hiller didn't pull him after the first 2. I can't help but think that the team has lost trust in him after the disastrous decisions he made during the playoffs. I hope I'm wrong about this, but how long do the Kings stick with this coach and GM before they blow them out in favor of Mike Fuda or somebody with the right vision for this team?" And that was Chris in Oceanside. Well, Chris, unless things really, really go south fast, I think Jim Hiller is still going to be the head coach for at least the rest of the month. Frankly, I don't see a scenario where Ken Holland gets let go this year unless it is just an absolute dumpster fire. As for Luc Robitaille's future, if the Kings don't make the playoffs, I could see Luc maybe falling on the sword, kind of the way Rob Blake did, if you believe that he did that, and I do. Maybe Luke would be reassigned within the organization because he is so well liked and a legend of the franchise and all that. But any kind of changes at this point, I would say I wouldn't hold my breath. But I understand why everyone's thinking about it, and a lot of people have that on their minds right now. Alex in Glendale says, it's been a minute since my last email, but I just had to reach out and say, I vehemently disagree with Brian. That was the emailer from last week. He says, over the time that you have hosted Locked on LA Kings, the tenor and tone of the show has always leaned optimistic with just the right amount of realistic. All that said, help walk me back off the ledge. At the time I'm writing this, the Kings are 1-2-1, and our vaunted defensive style isn't holding up. Being the glass is half full kind of guy that you are, please give me some hope for the season. As always, thanks for all you do, and go Kings go. And that was Alex in Glendale. I did want to say the angry email from Brian last week. Brian emailed me to apologize. That apology has been accepted. Brian let me know he's going through some tough times right now, and I just want to say I wish Brian all the best. As for the kind words, Alex, I would have to say that's exactly what I try and go for on this show. As you said, optimistic with the right amount of realistic. That said, I can't deny I'm very concerned right now. Not a good start. Kopitar injury. Who knows when Kemper's coming back, and it's possible that this thing could snowball fast. So I'm holding out, until the end of October before I really kind of voice my opinion. I think the team deserves that. We'll see how it goes, but I can't deny that I am concerned at this point. John, previously in Tokyo, now in Greensboro, North Carolina, says, one of your listeners recently said he was done with Kings fans, essentially calling us negative and quitters as he quit and exited from Truths. You included the word expectations in the title of your Thursday night episode, and while many have strong opinions about this team being decent, my expectations were low. I actually think the team is right by my expectations. No superstar performers, no outstanding goalie, and no great coach. The team has stars in Kempe and Kopitar, but they're currently not performing at a particularly high level, so I don't see them in the playoffs this season. In fact, why are the expectations, including yours, so high? Mediocre free agent additions from a new GM who doesn't have the pulse of the fan base. I don't expect much. Hope I'm wrong. And that was John in Greensboro. Well, why were the expectations, including mine, so high? First off, I don't think they were high. I think that my expectations were the Kings would be what they've been the last 4 years, and that's a playoff team. So I guess that's high, but I didn't think they're a Stanley Cup contender. They did tie a franchise record for wins and points last season, and I didn't feel that losing Vladislav Gavrikov was that big of a loss, that they would go from perennial playoff team to out of the playoffs. I know you said they don't have any superstar performers, but they haven't had any superstar performers the last 4 years. They haven't had a star goalie for the last 4 years, although Kemper was a Vezina Trophy finalist, but you know what I mean. It's been kind of a rotating door of veteran guys. That hasn't changed. And I didn't think the goaltending would be any worse than it's been the last 4 years. You mentioned mediocre free agent additions. Well, it was the same thing last season when they added Fogle and Edmondson. And I don't think anything has changed really. As far as the GM not knowing the pulse of the fan base, people said the same thing about Rob Blake. So, look, the Kings aren't off to a good start. And I guess if you want to, you could say you told us so. And that's fine. But I think that there were plenty of people that thought the Kings might take a little bit of a step back, but I don't think many people thought they wouldn't be a playoff team this year. And look, we don't know if that's not going to happen. And they are off to a bad start right now, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But I don't have any regrets, if you want to call them that, about thinking the Kings would be a playoff team again this year. I think that was to be expected, frankly. More venting from Kings fans, plus good news on an Adrian Kempe contract. That is next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for early season games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Gametime comes in. The app gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love that you can see what you pay for with no hidden fees at checkout, and you can see exactly what your view looks like before you buy tickets with their in-app seat view feature. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Let's continue the feedback. This is from Ruben Guzzi Gabriel. He's in West Covina. He says, I haven't been too impressed by Anton Forsberg. Should we be concerned about him and his play? I'm already worried and concerned about Kempe signing. We don't need more things to worry about. Thanks for everything you do to keep us Kings fans informed. Go Kings, go. Go Rain, go. Ruben Guzzi Gabriel in West Covina. So, yes, hard to be impressed with Anton Forsberg to this point. He's allowed 8 goals in 2 starts, and there have been several soft goals. Robert in Hawthorne checks in. He says, get the 3 out. Luke Robitaille should be fired because he hired Ken Holland. Ken Holland should be fired because he didn't fire Jim Hiller. 3 Stooges have this franchise going down the toilet real fast. Honestly, I'm frustrated to the core, hoping that the team can bounce back quickly and in a hurry. Diehard Kings fan since 73. Keep up the good and admirable work you do, Eddie. And that was Robert in Hawthorne. I have met Robert many times. He is a super nice man. It's hard to imagine Robert being upset and angry, but I get it. When you love something as much as, Robert loves the Kings and I love the Kings, and you invest your time and your money into the team, it is frustrating when things aren't going the way you want them to. All I will say is that, if this goes in a terrible place, there will have to be accountability, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Andy in Guelph checks in with a rare positive email. Refreshing, I would say. He says, I don't think the sky's falling. If LA went 1-3-1 in December or January, no one would be concerned. It's only magnified due to the start of the season. With that said, I do have concerns after just reading that Kopitar is out week to week, so I'm guessing I won't see him play in Toronto come November 13th. Oh, that stinks. We'll see, I guess. I think the Kings can overcome the start, but I don't see them as a contender this year. What do you think? Hoping we get a Dodgers-Blue Jays World Series, and that was Andy in Guelph. Well, Andy, it's refreshing that you're not hitting the panic button yet, as so many are. I'm not hitting it yet either, but my hand is kind of reaching for it a little bit. But you are correct. The Kings didn't get off to a great start last year. They were 1-1-2 after 4 games, and then they won 4 of 5. If the Kings do that, I think we'll all feel a lot better. I'm not real optimistic they're going to win 4 of their next 5, to be honest with you. But we'll see. I'm hopeful. Yes, the opponents have had something to do with the Kings' rough start. Again, not panicked, but I am concerned. But I do appreciate a little optimism. I feel terrible, though, if you were going to go see Kopitar in person up there in Ontario and he be out hurt for that. That sucks. That's really, I feel bad for you on that one. As for your Dodgers Blue Jays World Series, well, the Dodgers have kept up their end of the bargain. Now it's up to the Blue Jays to try and join them. We'll see. Brian in Huntington Beach says, I would really love to hear Ken Holland's justification for offering Adrian Kempe a contract that was less than $9 million per season. I believe I heard Holland say the team needs to prepare to pay big contracts to other players in the future, i.e. Byfield and Clark, but I just don't buy it. I think Holland undervalues Kempe for whatever reason and thinks he is just a mediocre hockey player. Kempe must feel like he is being backstabbed by his own organization, and I think it's only a matter of time before he says, screw this new GM and screw Luke Robitaille. I thought he would have my back, but I guess not. I'm out of here. As for the Jordan Spence trade, the CC contract, and now the handling of Adrian Kempe, I'm starting to believe Holland is too out of touch with today's NHL, and I'm finding it very hard to trust that he knows what he's doing. I think Rob Blake would have offered Kempe $10 million per season in a heartbeat. And lastly, I'm kind of starting to think we need a new head coach. I know it's early, but after Hiller's mishandling of last year's playoffs, I don't think the players have a whole lot of confidence in him. That's just my gut feeling. Thanks for all you do for us Kings fans, and go Kings go. And that was from Brian in Huntington Beach. we have more about the Adrian Kempe contract. So I'm going to hold off on that because some other people are commenting on it as well. So we will hold off on that in just a second. But I can understand the frustration at this point. It's understandable. Spike in Fremont says there has to be something in the room for the Kings to roll over in last year's playoffs, go down 3-0 against the Wild, grab a 2-0 lead on Pittsburgh only to lose. It may be the coach. I like Jim Hiller. He did a great job last year, but this all Swedish, no finish style of play is quite upsetting. The team is built to win now. If the fish stinks, it's time to lop off the head. Maybe sooner than later. Pete DeBoer is available. His shelf life will be short, but he may be what the team needs. If the campaign negotiations are going to take a pause, higher authorities need to follow Deion Sanders' advice and pay the man. To Juice's credit, he's not playing like an unhappy player about the talks. Let's move forward, pay the man. The early schedule, inconsistent effort, and bad luck have given the Kings a bad hand in October. However, last year they started off on the road and didn't do well. They didn't have foes like Winnipeg, Minnesota, Vegas, and Carolina. The ridiculous number of penalties can be attributed to laziness and stupidity. And about bad luck, I'm still hearing the clank from the 3 missed shots on Thursday. Raiders coach Pete Carroll's mother used to say, something good is just around the corner. He says that to his players to keep them to stay positive. We need some of that now. Thanks, Eddie. Keep on keeping on. Go Kings go. And that is Spike in Fremont. As I said, I don't know it's realistic to talk about coaching changes at this point. Although I understand why people are talking about it. People were talking about it before the season started. I have to assume any list of NHL coaches, though, that were on the hot seat going into the season would have Jim Hiller's name on the list. You mentioned something good being right around the corner. Okay, so as far as Kempe contract news, not to bury the big story perhaps, but John Hoven from Mayor's Manor reportedly said on his podcast he believes the Kings and Kempe have agreed in principle on a new deal, and they are now just ironing out the details. Now, no one else is reporting this. I hope the mayor's right, and I would love to be able to get some positive news for the Kings right now. So again, John Hoven, Mayor's Manor, he's reporting that he believes a deal between Kempe and the Kings has been agreed on in principle, and they are just kind of ironing out the details. So I hope that is the case. Like I said, that would be some good news right now for a fan base that's looking for a little good news. Could it be that Ed and Brea and I actually agree on something? We will talk about that next year on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to bet across the app. I love using FanDuel because if it's however you like to bet, player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds, it makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, Kyle in Covina checks in and he says, nice work on the show, and I'm always impressed with your ability to grind during the summer when content is so limited. Thank you, Kyle. My first point is surrounding Adrian Kempe, and I truly don't see a reason for him to re-sign with LA, and especially not to do so until at least next summer. The cap is going up once again, and I'll have a much clearer picture of what this team will even look like. This is a guy in his prime who has never left the first round of the playoffs. 4 years ago, he had never even made the playoffs. That's a full career of team struggles. McDavid just re-upped for 2 years, so that's 3 more cycles of Edmonton being an obstacle in front of the team. Kopitar is retiring, and Kempe is losing his main centerman. This is sad to say, but it feels like a John Tavares Islanders situation. We're also not even acknowledging the absolute steal of a contract Kempe is currently on. If LA had come out in good faith and immediately offered him $10 million a year, I bet he would have at least considered it. But now, I'd be shocked if his starting point isn't $12 million a year. There's going to be an absolute bidding war should Kempe go to free agency. He's big, fast, plays with an edge, and has a wicked shot. Ken Holland came out and threw money at Cody Ceci, Corey Perry, Joel Armia, Brian Dumoulin, then turned around and offered Kempe $8.5 to $9 million. So I really wouldn't blame Kempe for taking a long, hard look at the state of the team and his value within. Jumping from that Kempe topic, I'm also wondering what you think about the team in general and where their confidence is at. The Kings were the second youngest team in the league just a few years ago, and then Ken Holland came in and spent like he had a blank check, except when it came to Gavrikov, and the Kings are now towards the oldest because of the summer signings. My fear is if the Kings can't get some momentum, LA might be closer to a rebuild than they are a cup. Anyway, keep up the good work. Hope I'm wrong. Maybe give the defense a little more time to mesh before checking to see if the sky is falling. And that is Kyle in West Covina. Good email, Kyle. As far as what I think about the team in general, I do think they should be better than what we've seen so far. I know a lot of people thought, again, the Kings might take a step back. I even said I didn't believe they would have the same number of wins and points as a year ago, but I still thought that they would be a better team than what we have seen so far. Last season, Vladislav Gavrikov stepped up when Drew Doughty went down. I'm wondering, is there someone who can step up with Anze Kopitar now out for several games? As far as Adrian Kempe, I think you make a lot of good points, and I would not blame Kempe one bit if he decided I'm going to test free agency. If the Kings don't want to pay me, there's someone else out there that will. And you mentioned it. If he values winning and being on a team that it could be a cup contender, you couldn't blame him for leaving the Kings. Now, fortunately, it seems like he really likes LA and he really wants to stay here. And hopefully the report about an agreement to a contract is been agreed to in principle, and they're just working out the deal. So hopefully that is the case. I did hear an interesting story about Tomas Hertl. This was from the 32 Thoughts podcast, Elliot Friedman. He told the San Jose Sharks, I can't wait for you guys to get your stuff together. One more knee injury and my career's over, and I want a shot at winning. So trade me to a team that has a shot to win. And they did. They traded him to the Vegas Golden Knights, and they're a team that has a shot to win. So I get a player saying, I've played a decent amount of games in the NHL. I've given you the best I can. It's not the same situation as Hertl. It wasn't about money. But like I said, I love Adrian Kempe. You guys know I said I would have signed him in the offseason to whatever it was he wanted, which was again, about $10 million a year, which looks like, I wouldn't say cheap now, but it's definitely more than he's going to get, I think, either here or elsewhere. So, hopefully this gets figured out soon. Ed in Brea checks in and he says, first off, happy birthday, dude. Thank you, Ed. And thank you to everyone for the birthday wishes. My birthday was Thursday. My two favorite teams were playing, the LA Kings and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they both lost. Thankfully, the day before my birthday was when my wife and I kind of celebrated my birthday, and we had an awesome day. So, but that was a bummer. It really was. Ed continues. He says, this current team looks out of it after the loss to the Penguins. Can't win faceoffs. PK can't stop a power play. Power play wasted effort. Our defense is too slow. Our offense, besides the top line, is not consistent, and our goalie, now especially our backup, cannot make necessary saves. With Kopitar and Kempe out, Kings are in trouble. I said Kemper is a good starting goalie, not elite. He needs a solid, consistent defense to help him. Forsberg looks like a dud at the moment, while I don't get Kings management not giving Portillo a chance to see what we have. Our GM decided to go with size instead of speed for the playoffs. Well, you need to make the playoffs first. As for Kempe, I'm interested in chatting with some fellow Kings fans there. It's about 60-40% yes, no, as far as is Kempe worth $10 million or more. My opinion, after what I saw last night, he is not worth more than $10 million after he looked lost without Kopitar. Kempe is an all-star talent. I love him as a King forever. However, I believe he's not elite. Just want to say maybe there is something that Holland sees that we don't. Maybe Holland is looking to change the culture. Also changing, I think it's time very soon to consider a coaching change. The way it looks right now, this team still looks traumatized since the Oilers collapse. Looks like the Kings players have lost faith or tuned Jim Hiller out. Can Corey Perry, a very unliked rival player, save the Kings season and turn it around? Interesting storyline to see. Would be something. Keep up the good work. Go Kings, go. And that is Ed in Brea. I'll be always positive, Ed in Brea. But I will have to say, I actually had that exact same thought today. I walked by Corey Perry in the press box at the Kings game against the Penguins on Thursday. And, he's walking normally. He looks fine. Obviously, he's on the ice. He's skating. And I was thinking about the game against Carolina and the games coming up. And I'm like, they have this kind of hockey cliche about a player who drags his team into the fight. And I'm looking, I mentioned, Vladislav Gavrikov stepped up last year. I'm looking for somebody on the Kings to kind of step up and pull them into the fight. Wouldn't it be wild if Corey Perry was that guy? And a lot of Kings fans, and I will say including me, if he came in and got this team going in the right direction and dragged them into the fight, I got to say, that would make me feel a lot better about Corey Perry. And Ed's right. That would be a hell of a storyline. So Corey Perry's close, not going to play obviously this weekend or anything, but he's close. And we'll see. We'll see if he can maybe be the guy who pulls the LA Kings into the fight. We have a giveaway coming up, so do not stop listening or watching at this point. But I do want to say thank you, obviously, to everyone who took the time to email. I hope you feel a little bit better that you got a chance to vent a bit here on the show. The feedback show literally is not possible without your participation. If you want to get an email in for the feedback show or for any other reason, the email address lockedoneddie@gmail.com. And as always, you can leave your comments in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube. I have a ticket giveaway. LA Kings fan Steve, my brother from another mother, who's also a Kings, Steelers, and Star Wars nut like me, has graciously donated 2 free tickets to the Kings Hurricanes game. They're up in the 300 level, and I will give those tickets away to 2 fans who want to go. Please, though, only ask for the tickets if you know you are going to use them. You can send me an email, lockedoneddie@gmail.com. Put tickets in the headline. First come, first serve. 2 tickets for the Kings Hurricanes game. Thanks to LA Kings fan Steve, and we thank him for his generosity. We will have the Kings post-game show after the Kings Hurricanes game on Saturday, so you will get a bonus episode this week. Also, if you want to stay active with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, we are at Locked On LA Kings. And if you're interested in exclusive Kings coverage, you can send me an email. We did a breaking news show this morning as soon as the Anze Kopitar news came down. If that sounds like something you'd like to be notified of and be interested in, you can send me an email, lakingsextra@gmail.com. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings go.